Yes. So I am Carmela, and I am a powerful, authentic, and confident leader. I am Shakira, and I stand for courage, freedom, and truth. And so it is my privilege to chat with you here for the next few minutes. So I'm going to jump right in and go ahead and share my screen because I'm going to use that as my guide and go from there. So today's topic is, right, I don't know what happened here, but let's see. All right, so hang on one second here. Anyway, today's topic is redefining success and breaking out of burnout. And the challenge with this topic is that it is something that is so crucially important for individuals as they are moving through creating their business or going about their lives, being the CEO of their lives and their businesses. And that in itself is a challenge for individuals. And so the last several weeks, I have had the challenge of talking with people who was struggling with it. And as I shared it, I had the opportunity to go ahead and get invited actually by Kelly to go ahead and share it. So I am thankful for that and glad I have the opportunity to do so. Now let's see if I can get this share screen to do what it's supposed to do, and we can go from there. Okay, so we are talking about redefining success, and we will use this as a guide, as I said. So as individuals, it is about perfection when we start talking about success. We have this thing about us in our society and in our leadership world and entrepreneurship world where perfection is expected if you're going to make a name for yourself. And that becomes a challenge for some of us. But given the fact that perfection is a myth, I have learned over time that we never really honestly can attain. And we chase it all the time, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it can take us off the path of thriving while we are leading and doing the things that we really love and appreciate. And so my HCL 44 team members, welcome to the workshop. So I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like you had to choose between success and your sanity?
Yes.
You can say yes. I'll kind of keep it open unless we have other people, but you can just go ahead and respond
Yes.
as well. Yes.
Yes.
Me too, as they say. And the challenge with that is the pursuit of success pushes us as individuals. And I'm not here, as you'll hear at the end, I'm not here to talk you out of your drive or your desire for success. But the key is to thrive while we're having it or while we're pursuing it. As if anybody has ever told you that you're burning your candle at both ends, um, that I know that is not a common saying much anymore, but the reality of it is that Lao Tzu said that the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. So you expend a whole lot when you're burning the candle at both ends, and sometimes it ends in burnout. The causes of burnout are listed here. Obviously, they're not all, simply because the reality of the matter is that as individuals, burnout shows up in us in different ways. It is complex. It is The symptoms for each person are different because the stressors are processed differently. But the general definition is that it is chronic work-related stress, usually due to long hours, heavy workloads, demanding deadlines, our lack of control and autonomy over the work that we're having to do and the deadlines that we have to meet. It also shows up because of our lack of work-life balance. And I have given up on work-life balance. That way I can give everybody else permission to give up on the work-life balance thing, because that too is a myth. It does not, it never has worked for me. What has worked for me though is strategic priorities. And I will pick whatever I must focus on in priority on that particular day or that particular week or that particular season. And I will work focused on that. Because if I didn't and I tried to multitask all over the place, then self-care gets thrown to the side, my personal needs don't get met, and the people around me also don't get my best. And so I strategically prioritize to help move me towards the work-life balance. And then I talked about lack of control or autonomy. I have been in positions where I had no control over the deadline, and regardless of how inhumane everybody complained it was, the deadline never moved. And people were moved who couldn't meet the deadlines, but the deadline wasn't moved. And that's one of the things I will challenge as we go along, because it creates frustration, it creates powerlessness and exhaustion if you have to keep working to meet this deadline that can also be elusive. Absence of support, always also been there. The reality of the matter is that everybody can do a good job if they have support, or a better job, I should say. But the reality of the matter is, if you don't have that support, you as an individual are stretched and you feel isolated. The frustration shows back up. It also shows up when you don't have enough resources and you are, robbing Peter to pay Paul, as we say, or if we don't have individuals or departments to assist us. That was the learning curve I had when I left the business world, was that I used to have departments that I could refer to and people I could go to help me with certain things, but it didn't matter. At the end of the day, when it was mine, unless I had those resources in place too. And the reality of that is that as an individual, we can be disillusioned and become disengaged because we are overwhelmed and overworked. Has anybody been in any of those scenarios I have just described? Yes. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone. They tell us that entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster. I am not too happy with that descriptor because it means, I'm going up and down, up and down. I prefer the descriptor of a marathon that allows us to sprint at times. And so we can be sprinters, but we can't sprint all the time. We can be a marathon runner and run longer, further, and better. So just to give some stats to let you know how significant this is and why I have called it, and other people call it, a silent epidemic, is that over 90% of individuals who have been surveyed in a variety of surveys, whether it's the Harvard Business Review, Fortune, Deloitte, etc., 96% burnout rate in high-ranking officials and leaders. That's huge. And it is actually mind-blowing, right? But then the employees are not that much further behind, right, at 80%. And it is a reminder that we are not alone if we have those feelings, if we feel that kind of pressure. We have options to leave, because there are people who will tell us, well, if you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen, and you can leave, and the same door that swings you out will swing somebody else in. I have heard people say that to other people, and I was like, OMG. I cannot imagine that somebody would be so callous to say that, but that mentality is quite strong, particularly in an at-will state. So Florida's an at-will state, so they can let you go anytime. And so a part of the culture of leadership shows that as well in this kind of a response, right? The thing that we know and we don't necessarily acknowledge, but it's becoming more and more important, is that women more than men talk about burnout. There's some just basic standard reasons for that. Negative entitlement in society, which means that we have the major responsibility for families, doing the housework and those kinds of things. And you do that whether you have a job or not, unless you have someone to support you, right? And the flip side to that is, even in the workplace, you're still at a level that is of inequity because of the salary gap that still persists. But there's new research that's showing that young adults are showing burnout more than older adults. And the reasons as of now are socioeconomic stressors, such as coming out. Some of them are graduating now in the pandemic. After the pandemic, some of them have come out and found that housing is too expensive. They cannot get the lifestyle that they were promised from taking that education and so on. So the environment is different now, and they are showing, the millennials and the Gen Zs are showing the stress in the form of burnout. The top jobs that have burnout attached to them are physicians, nurses, social workers. I can attest to the physician part because I've seen physicians come, and as they are waiting, they are sleeping, standing up, because they're so exhausted. And I know it sounds like a harsh picture, but those interns and the medical residents and students that are working 72 hours on a stretch, they will and often do burn out. And the most recent example I had was a physician that everybody thought was doing fantastic work in the community, standing up and advocating for her people, and then she was gone. And it was attributed to burnout. And so it just is at the front of my mind. And if you need to know how to recognize it, here are some ways, right? Feeling physically exhausted, mentally and emotionally drained. And yes, those can happen for other reasons as well. But when it is related to your workplace and a lack of energy, those then can be related to burnout. But you can also find in organizations or in companies that if somebody who has been a top performer and a high achiever starts slowing down on their productivity, we can definitely begin to consider and look at burnout. If they used to get involved in all of the activities, but now all of a sudden they're not doing that, they're becoming emotionally detached, it needs to be considered. And for those individuals who are extra irritable or easily irritated and negative in the process of their day, that also is a sign of burnout, not having patience anymore or having a pessimistic and negative outlook. Yeah, there's I tell you, there's so many, so many ways. I'm like, oh my God, I have to put this in my checklist. So I will share, I will share a checklist with you afterwards so that you know whether you are approaching burnout or already in it, or know someone who is, because all of those are true for us as individuals at the end of the day. And sometimes burnout does not show up as stress and depression. It shows up as physical illness that as individuals, we go to our primary care physician rather than HR to say we have a problem. We talk to our doctor, right? And or you have chronic headaches. I think the increase in migraines is an example of that. Insomnia, not sleeping at night, just playing the broken record of the things you forgot for that day at work to get done, stuff like that. Changes in our appetite, irritable bowel syndrome, susceptible to colds, depression. So there's a lot of physical symptoms that come along with it that we often don't marry to and connect to burnout as well. Being overwhelmed, I have had people say they don't like to hear the word overwhelmed, but that is a descriptor for individuals who are undergoing burnout. They will feel overwhelmed and want to pull back and disengage because it is causing them too much emotional stress and lack of satisfaction and fulfillment. I think that all of us at the end of the day want to be satisfied in what we're doing, want to be fulfilled, want to thrive in the ways and the work that we do. And when we don't have that as an outcome, and you don't have that satisfaction, and in administrative jobs that never really finish, that can be a huge challenge. You end up as an individual feeling dissatisfied and unfulfilled, even though you may have excelled and you may have achieved a lot of things. And so it is complex, as I indicate, and it is so huge of an issue that it costs our economy $300 billion every year. We don't talk about that enough. We kind of just gloss over it and hope that productivity metrics will cover up what's going on. But how do you know that you are burning out, or have you ever felt like you were burning out? Like whether it was the constant fatigue, whether it is the loss of enthusiasm for your job. It's not just a tough day that you're having if it's persisting, right? And then there are a couple of other reasons that I would put here that also are not usually connected. And it has to do with toxic resilience, which is having to operate and work in a hostile work environment for an extended period of time. Having that inner critic that won't shut up, the imposter syndrome, messes with your mind and saps your emotional energy as well if we listen to it. Anyone who is subject to microaggressions, I call it death by 1,000 cuts, they will suffer from burnout because it's a stressful environment that they are working and living in for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you know. Failure to delegate. Some of us like to do everything on our own, but we really can't do it effectively on our own. And so at the end of the day, if we are not delegating and we're trying to do everything, burnout is just about inevitable, right? Imposter syndrome is something that I attach to burnout, because if you are constantly afraid of being found out of something you're not, if you're constantly second guessing your skills, even though you have your achievements listed in front of you and so on, that takes stress from you. It makes you depressed if you cannot shake that. And so those are just some examples. So I have a question for you. If burnout were a hidden tax, on your success, would you still think the price was worth it? Okay, I see some no's. Okay, all right. That's it. That's quite interesting. I had somebody tell me the other day, yeah, it'll be worth it for whatever time it is, And I said to myself, I guess you have not burnt out yet, because I have seen people who have not come back from burnout. I have seen people who come back and they are totally changed. I have seen people who come back and have to do a different kind of job to be able to manage. So burnout has some serious consequences if we do not pay attention to it and manage it. It's interesting, but Marissa Mayer, the former CEO of Yahoo, said burnout is about resentment. It's about knowing what matters to you so much that if you don't get it, you're resentful. And I can throw back things like the wage gap for women, not being promoted on time, watching everybody else being promoted around you, and then them asking you to train them, and so on. You begin to understand and see that resentment can be a part of it. Have any of you heard, in terms of burnout, the whole issue of resentment? Yeah, that
No,
was.
this
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
actually my first time ever hearing resentment connected to burnout. So I'm interested.
Yes, and so she's a CEO, right? And I have been looking into and reading some of the CEOs, because what they're doing now is they're writing, describing their burnout. So there's like a actually mini project going on with CEOs when they talk about that. But I wonder if that is not, I don't know if it's all about resentment, but I know that burnout is definitely a challenge. If you cannot, just to finish that thought, a challenge for people who lead. And I'm thinking of the Prime Minister of New Zealand, I think it is. And she was elected at such a young age, and everybody was so happy and everything. And then they understood, okay, she said, okay, I'm done. And people are like, why? But think about the amount of responsibility, the constant being on call 24/7 and those kinds of things. If there are people who are constantly at you, if there are people who have made your life difficult while you are working, it can be about resentment. If you've been passed over for the, nth time and you don't see any hope, you can begin to be resentful. And that resentfulness then turns into dissatisfaction and disillusionment, and it spins right into the symptoms of burnout. So the reality of the matter is that burnout actually is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've been trying to be too strong too long. It's also a call to action. It is a sign that something is wrong. And as we look to deal with it, we have to pay attention to the signals that we get and not get rid of them. So, question, do you believe that showing vulnerability is a strength or weakness in leadership, and why? Is that a yes? You can come on mute.
Okay, so up until now,
Okay.
in the past, I believed that showing vulnerability was a weakness in the past. And now I no longer believe that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting conundrum. I've been on both sides of that coin, and I straddle right now. And by straddling, I mean that I will not be vulnerable in front of everybody, because it's just safety matter. And the creation of safe spaces is a huge thing. I've also seen vulnerability boomerang, right? So I guess that informs the way I would operate. But I've also had opportunity and have had people be vulnerable with me. So and reciprocated, and that has been great. So I would say 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But while there's no problem with being vulnerable, and I don't consider it a weakness, I say utilize it as a strength with caution. That's how I would phrase it. Other people will say, "Oh, I'll just let them know who I am and let the chips fall where they may." And I say, kudos to you. You have advanced further than I have, right? But yes, it is about understanding, because there are people on both sides of that coin. There are some people who will hide and not want to share what's going on. And then there are other people that kind of overshare, from my perspective. We don't need to know all the drama. So what's a leader to do? We can take, as a leader, we can take two approaches, probably more, or a mix of them. One is to be supportive, and that is to acknowledge the feelings that the team or the individual has when they bring it to you. Actively listening and being patient and consistent with them. It's about that creating a safe space that they can feel, they can communicate. Encourage them to take care of themselves, because oftentimes with burnout, the reality of the matter is that they are not taking care of themselves. They're moving towards the productivity and the metrics and forgetting about their own needs. If you have listened to them and recognize that they need professional help, we need to share professional help with them, give them those resources so that they're able to function, and help them then to craft a healthy work-life balance, work-life priorities, work-life strategies, if you will. We've got to be honest, because if we are leaders, we're also looking at our profits and productivity as well. So if honesty is necessary, it has to be used, and understanding them in terms of transparency and respecting them for wherever they may be. And not just staying in support, but to challenge them as well. Encourage them to reflect, encourage them to set boundaries, encourage them to propose how they can lead in a different way, or what they would like in terms of support from the leader themselves. Encourage them to delegate. If they're trying to do everything and keep missing deadlines, hello, something has to happen in terms of getting things done. If it's new skills that they need to learn, that also shifts the dynamic in terms of depression. It injects new information and new knowledge. And so it can help them move more towards the satisfaction and fulfillment side of the continuum. And then, of course, mentorship, which is helpful, and coaching, I would put in that category as well. It's helpful for them to understand and explain, even to themselves, what might be going on, to hear themselves talk about it, because and get out of their heads, and then find ways that they can pull together a strategy that works for them. Do I have any comments or feedback on that?
I have some
Yes.
feedback.
Yes.
Oh, maybe you're going to explain it more. Hang on. I'll wait.
No. I'll go back. Go ahead.
But
I want a feedback. Yeah, in the comments. Mm-hmm.
So what's landing for me is the very last one: be honest and transparent and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to create that, doesn't that require vulnerability?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, it would. because that's what comes next. So yes.
I saw the
yes,
next
it
slide. I
does.
was like,
Yes. But yes, at the end of the day, the leader has to model. If they don't operate in vulnerability and authenticity, which is the how should you lead in a situation where you may suspect burnout, it is about being authentic enough to build trust and to share the challenges and fears that you have as a person. And it helps them to trust you more. It humanizes you. It does not, have you up there on a pedestal and nobody can reach you. So yes, in that sense, the vulnerability becomes a strength if it is used in that capacity and used well, because it gives permission to the other people around you who may be struggling to step into that vulnerability themselves and then free themselves from the prison or the box they have put themselves in. So thank you for sharing that. Any other comments?
No, I think that's great. I love that you define the difference, because I was stuck on the vulnerability being defined almost as like being stuck in drama. And so I love the way that you just defined it as creating trust and authenticity and connection, and not so much about the drama, because that can happen. So this is awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. You're welcome. So in vulnerability and authenticity, we're also promoting open communication. And I talked about safe spaces, and that's where the transparency comes. That's where the respect comes in as well, for that person, because we struggle in many areas of our society dealing with mental health issues. And as a leader in a company, if it's your company or somebody else's, one of the things that should be provided, whether it's an employee assistance program or HR or part of their benefits, is those resources, mental health resources. It's other things like giving them that mental health day off or something like that, shifting duties that they can get a hold of what is going on with themselves, manage it for their benefit and for the benefit of the company as well. And when a leader admits their mistakes and talks about the learning that comes from it, they can then have double loop learning is what we call it, but it's the continuous learning and improvement. So it is, all right, we had an error. What could we have done better? We write down what we could have done better. We implement what could have been done better. And then we evaluate again to see what was learned and whether we actually learned the right lesson and or implemented the right strategy. So there's power in a leader being transparent, particularly if they use mistakes and errors, not managing by exception, but managing by learning from the mistakes that are made. And then, of course, collaboration, because if we have a safe space, then we can come together as individuals and bring all of our resources, our knowledge, our problem solving, opportunities and decisions and thinking to the table, so that one person is not charged to know it all, be it all, and do it all. And then other than the leader just paying attention to what is happening with the leading and the vulnerability and the authenticity, I also say that we have to embrace the pressure. We cannot just shy away and step away from things. And I know this is a somewhat controversial approach, but there's a reason that I have found over the time that I have studied and worked with individuals why pressure needs to be embraced. We have to look at it from a growth perspective, and I'll share with you why next. It has to do with your purpose, your presence, your passion, and your power. So we all love roses, and we all love the notes of roses in our perfume. And so we cannot get to the essence of the roses in our perfume if they are not put under pressure and crushed. And so the interesting thing about that is roses have many uses, right? They can be my bouquet, the prettiest flowers and everything. But when it becomes the note of a perfume that announces you, a perfume that speaks your essence and then lingers in the room after you leave, it is about your purpose. It is about people understanding what your essence is and your purpose for being there in the room. And the pressure of roses helps to understand that. There's another kind of pressure that has to do with your presence, and it has to do with olive oil. Olive oil comes from olives. And every restaurant, every culture, most, if not all homes, have olive oil in some form or fashion. Whether it's imported or created and exported, it is there. It is a presence that is the only word that I can think of is ubiquitous. It is all over the place. And if we as individuals want our presence to be known locally and globally, we're going to have to be able to withstand pressure as well. Otherwise, we will not get to the essence, to the presence that we're looking for globally. It's not just going to drop in our laps, right? All of us know we have to do a little bit of something to get there, right? And so embracing that pressure of making sure that people know you, that you're visible, that you're aware, that people are aware of you and what you bring to the table so that they can then utilize those services, and then you will be known locally and globally. So the olive and the olive oil touches that. And then there's the transformation that happens as we grow as individuals. And this is a different kind of pressure. It's a kind of pressure that actually changes a caterpillar into a butterfly. And the reality of that transformation is that we have to allow the process to play out. If we abort the process of the cocoon and the caterpillar squeezing out of the cocoon, if we cut it to help it, we mess their wings. They will never be able to fly because they will not have built up the muscle that's necessary. And if we are to become who we need to become, we need to persevere, not rush the process, but embrace the process and the journey so that we can find the beauty of the passion and the energy that is in us. Because it is also the pressure that helps us to understand where our passion is and where it is not. And so the key of putting ourselves through this growth process, because for the caterpillar, it's a growth process that it's going through, but it's a transformative growth process that brings a fantastic looking butterfly that may or may not resemble what the caterpillar looks like, but it is so beautiful that it makes a difference for our passion, the passion of other people who go to the butterfly gardens, for example, and who hold up their hands so that they can land on them. They're so beautiful. And then we look at how therapy and psychology and social workers use that butterfly as an indicator of transformation as well. And so I leave that form of pressure for you. And then the last one is the girl's best friend, which is increasing value, influence, and power as someone who is a diamond. Diamonds undergo thousands of years of pressure, thousands of pounds of pressure, and they are literally squeezed into a fabulous crystal that has it doesn't even look like the carbon, but the key behind it is it comes out brilliant. It is sought after. The clarity and the cut of the diamond makes the difference, as well as the color and the carat. And the point that I'm trying to make is if we step away from pressure all the time and we don't embrace it, we may never reach the luxury and the value that people vie for and pay for. And so it is a reminder that we need to embrace the pressure that comes our way. We may have to take it slow, but if we understand our pace and we understand our skills and we are open to learning and growth, we can become that diamond that everybody looks for, and it won't just be somebody's best friend, right? So if we're going to embrace the pressure, we have to focus on our mindset, shift our actions if necessary, so that we can have the outcomes that we are looking for. And two things I always attach to that is staying in gratitude and making sure that we have our brag bank at hand. Because if we are struggling as people to remember how valuable we are and what we bring to the table, then we can just pull that out and remind ourselves of who we are. It becomes like the supplement to the contract that we're trying to walk in, right? Okay. One final question before I close out on this piece. Is your answer A or B? Is perfect leadership an achievable ideal or a dangerous illusion? What's your take? Go ahead.
I say
That's
B.
Kelly. You say B.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And
Depends on
why
how
would
you
you say that? Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say what the reason I say that is because the word perfect is in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, and I said it was a myth, didn't I?
yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's an illusion for that reason as well, because people chase it as if it is real. Only to find that when they get to the top, it's lonely, or the ladder's on the wrong wall, or whatever their descriptor is. They have not achieved what they thought they were going to achieve simply because it is an illusion. Yeah. That's good. Casey? Sophia?
Well, I actually was choosing A.
Okay. Tell us why.
Because I get to define what perfect means.
Okay.
So by my definition of perfect,
Mm-hmm.
which is excellence for me, I think it's
Okay.
A.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
achievable.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm experiencing perfect leadership right now in this moment. I'm perfectly leading myself. I gotta I just gotta throw in something different there.
Yes. And that's okay, because when towards the end I talk about redefining success. And it is in that vein that you define your perfect. And as that is there, yeah, you can do that. I have to stay with my with my definition, because I said perfection is a myth. And I stay with that. I'm open to hearing and learning. Who knows? I may change.
I'm just playing angel's advocate. So
That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And sometimes, thinking like that is important, which is why I talk about it. And a lot of times, part of what happens when we have to redefine success is the reality is that success looks different for different people.
Yes.
So perfection will look different, whatever that is, for different people, or we can keep moving to that end, I think is how I would say it, because I'm a tennis buff. And so I look at the tennis players who have reached the top, like Djokovic, and 18 years, 16 years, plying their trade and refining and perfecting and working at it to get it to be the best. Right? And so if nothing else, that should be the ideal, whether we call it perfect or otherwise. If we can work to craft our leadership and make it something that is special, something that benefits us and the people that we lead, benefits the society, has an impact in the world, and so on. And we constantly are looking for, mindful leadership, being aware of the kind of leader we need to be depending on the people that we're leading, we can definitely make a difference. And that would be my take on it. Yes.
What I really love that you just clarified for me was that last description of the tennis players, where my definition up until now has been that perfect is a finite space. But what you just said was that by redefining it, perfect can become your next level.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's ever expanding.
Yeah.
Ever expanding, ever growing. And yes, perfect for somebody who's just entering the space is one thing, and perfect for somebody who's been in the space for a while looks very different, right? Yeah. Thank you for that input. So what's a company to do? What can companies do? And there are two categories that I have dropped some of these things in. Some of them belong in both. But it is to create a supportive environment. And we've talked a little bit about that with the leader and what the leader's responsibility would be for that. And the mental health resources, we've also looked at balancing results with well-being. And so it is the leader's responsibility, from my perspective, if the team does not yet have the self-directed skills to do that balancing for themselves, the leader has to model that and understand that the person who is happy and well taken care of is the person who will be productive. The person who's satisfied is the person who will be productive. I think there's a number on it, 12%. More productive if they are happy. And so part of the leadership in this space in companies, yours or anyone else's, is to balance the results that we are seeking in terms of profits and profitability and productivity, balance it with well-being. But the only way we can do that is if we look at what's happening with our productivity. So if, for example, you have a high achiever in your company or on your team, and you find that their achievement is dropping off, that's something that needs to be monitored, and it's something that needs to be investigated or evaluated. I think they talk about curiosity. It's a perfect place for curiosity with the leader, right? And for those of us who like to crunch numbers and look at the data, we have to look at trends of productivity, absenteeism, turnover, attrition, because all of them cost the company, including the healthcare costs, and the company reputation. Those are all things that need to be monitored on an ongoing basis, particularly if you begin to see that things are shifting and you're not really sure why. And then consider expectation of constant availability, whether that is truly necessary. It is interesting that many employees are pulling people back into the place. And then the employees are saying, no, I want to work at home, because they found a comfort space working from home that they didn't find from the organization. Well, that has a whole lot of stuff that goes underneath it and everything. But the point that I'm trying to get at is the expectation of constant availability over the weekends, overnight, and so on. Been there, done that. It can definitely burn you out if it is without reason. It makes people, take their families. I've observed that, they go to a restaurant with their families and they're working on their phone and the family's eating, and it's heartbreaking at one level, because you said you were coming to dinner, but the need to always be on and always be available and so on. So I speak to boundaries, right? And learning how to set them and making sure that success is multidimensional and includes not only the success metrics and productivity and profits and those kinds of things, but also the work-life balance. And the other thing is values alignment. I have experienced that one time in my life in one of the places I've worked, where values were not aligned. And what I stood for was not what the company stood for. I didn't stay long. I didn't even know that that's what they called it, but I didn't stay long because I could not do what they wanted me to do. And that's like cutting corners and, unethical stuff. So it's important for individuals who find themselves in cultures that are misaligned for them to either deal with it, speak about it, or they may eventually have to leave or they'll burn out, right? That's from my perspective and from my experience as well. So we can recognize burnout as companies. We can foster an open and safe culture. We can provide the mental health resources, create supportive environments, and we can redefine success metrics. It means that when we stop and we look at what success really means, we have to understand what it means to that person. And the whole thing about perfection, the definition of perfection, the definition of success is different for individuals as well. It doesn't matter what clients I have worked with, there's nobody that said they wish they had worked more, right? The issue is always about the lost time with family, the lost time with friends, lost time with children, the human stuff, which is very interesting, very interesting. And if we are going to redefine success, it is to move away from just a focus on the P's of the workplace, which is productivity and profits, but to make sure that we also balance happiness and fulfillment. And happiness, as they say, makes somebody 12% more productive. So I'm not saying, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that you've got to drop your determination and your relentlessness and your pursuit of perfection and success, or even your drive. I'm not saying that at all, because all of them are needed if you're going to be successful. But now it is about integrating or creating a both-and situation where you have the authenticity and the vulnerability, the humanity of the leader, along with the need to lead the team and get them to the profits that you're seeking at the end of the day as a common goal in the organization. So if there are mistakes, if leaders don't know, it's okay to say that you don't know it. If the culture and the space is one that is open and transparent. Everybody's looking to us, the leaders, whether we Whether we believe it or not, whether we believe that we are leaders or not, we have influence with people, and they are looking at us and they are modeling what we do. Everybody has stories that are good and stories that are not so good, and everything in between that have gotten them to the massive success that we all share in our very different ways. And the key is that if, as a leader, we are open, vulnerable, authentic, I think the other word we used was transparent, we then give permission for our team to be the same, and it increases the trust that brings the collaboration and the innovation intensity that is necessary for our company and us as leaders to thrive. So I want to thank you so very much for listening, for being here. And I appreciate you for the time that you have gifted me. And I hope it has been helpful to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carmela.
Thank you, Dr. Carmela.
Welcome.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good.
You're
Yeah.
shining. You're shining.
It's my pleasure.
I can tell.
So, any questions or comments? I'll share. I'll give you the checklist, the burnout checklist.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That goes with it, and it's like a infographic, but things you can do to help you along the way in terms of your breaking through the burnout. So that
Would you be okay
can.
with me sharing that with a girlfriend of mine today? She said, she actually started weeping. She said, I'm burned. Yeah.
You know, and that was one of the questions I had that I was going to put. Are you sufficiently confident in yourself that you would tell people you're burnt out when you feel like it?
Right. I was very grateful that she voiced
Absolutely. Absolutely. And kudos to you for creating the safe space, because otherwise she would not be vulnerable as well. You know, so that's awesome. Yes, you can absolutely share it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and because my goal always is to help other people become their best selves. So that's perfect. Thanks, guys. I'm done.
You're welcome. You are
Thank
glowing.
you.
You are glowing.
That was fantastic. Carmela, the power that radiates off of you. I mean, I'm attempting to come here as a student, but as your coach, I also get to acknowledge you. And your ending was so great. It was great. Just, pulling it in to say, to remind us that as leaders, we, even if we don't see it or we don't believe it, like you were saying, that imposter syndrome, but we still influence. People still look to us.
People still look.
Like,
and if we live, go ahead. I'll remember.
I was say that hit home for me. I was sharing with Coach Kelly earlier. It's been so wonderful to see my team laugh. They've been laughing more in the past few weeks than they have.
That's right.
2.5 years. And Coach Kelly reflected that, or asked me a question, and I saw that it's because of me. They're watching me. They're watching me. So that really hit home when you said
you're on display. I remember the story you told when you said that you didn't go, and you told them I'll be there in an hour or something, and everybody just waited. And so it just is indicative of what you have crafted and how much they depend on you.
Yes.
literally. Scott, it's good and bad, but the
Yeah.
piece that we're talking about is the fact that you are influencing them to such an extent that they wait for your direction.
Yeah, I'm working on that piece. And also what you talked about, the self-care, like the signs. I've also noticed that everyone has taken their week to be sick.
Oh.
Also.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm like, so I'm looking
Okay.
forward to talking to them about it and just seeing what they would share. But that one chart you put up about like
Mhm.
what we could do as leaders was very helpful.
Awesome.
It was good.
Awesome.
It was so good.
Thank you. Jessica, any comments?
My comment is I want her picture.
Yes, I like
It was all very good. Definitely. And I was going to add to yours, Sophia, about the perfect. I've always lived and taught, not always, but many, many years, that perfect. And when you did the tennis reference, it fit right into that. Perfect is reaching your best and doing your best. I tell my kids, like, your grades are perfect when you have done your best.
Everything you could. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Awesome.
I'm starting to use excellence more and more too. And then when I heard Michael say excellence, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I made that switch, Jessica, even though I still relate to perfect as not perfect, but striving. But I switched my language because my entire team all of them are what is called hyper achievers.
Okay, yeah, over.
Hyperachievers, yeah, which is even deeper than overachiever. Like they actually get anxiety around not
doing it. Yeah.
getting it perfect as defined by most people. So I keep talking about excellence. Excellence is they've done their best. They've done their very, very best.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that would be redefining success for them.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
really resonates. That lands for me. So that really lands for me because vulnerability share, I am a recovering perfectionist.
Okay.
And so my definition of perfect growing up was like, it needs to be 100% on spot. It didn't matter the effort. It just needs to literally be perfect. And as you know, to tie this into leadership, that holds you back, right? It's a defense, right? It's a way to stay safe because it'll never be perfect.
That's right.
And so I love the way that you defined it, Carmela, and saying there's it because for me, perfect meant the end, right? Like that was the end goal. There was no more room for growth. And so that redefining of it, and the way I'm defining it now is, yes, it's excellence, but that can easily slip into perfect for me. So for me, it now means being like worthy is perfect. Okay, how does this? It's really about being good enough. Being good enough.
Yeah.
Like I already know my standards are high, right? And so with that, I know my good enough is going to be great, and there's room for growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and you get to redefine it when you have attained whatever that good enough was at the time.
Exactly. We get to, because there's, it perfectly sourced, right? Because Sophia and I were talking about there's always a next level.
Yes. Always.
And making space for that. For me, perfect didn't make that space. And now it can. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, ladies, have a fabulous evening. And if I knew how to put the music to this thing, I would have played the Tina Turner Simply the Best.
I'll show you. I will happily show you next time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It's all good. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much
So
for
good.
coming. I
Good to see
appreciate it.
you.
Appreciate it.
Jessica. Thank you.
Sending it back to you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Ciao, everyone.
Have a great night.
Good night.